All right, and we're live. Welcome to the Team First Class video. And this week's edition, I've got so much information that I need to get through to you. And this week, we're going to be just focusing on coursework, assignments, and the stages that you've got to go through. The stages that I've gone through, that I show so many of the students that I work with. The stages that will allow you to produce the highest quality work and access all the marks available. Okay, so I'm literally going to be able to go through all of that with you in this video. Now, the way this is going to work over the next, few weeks or so, as we're getting really deep into assignments, deadlines, exams, every week I'll be sending out a video along these lines to make sure that you have all the information available to you that you can click on any time that you want, that can help you greatly do well in your exams. Okay, so the stages. There are 4 main stages that I would go through in my final year when I was trying to get my first, that I help other students go through. When I see, we've helped hundreds. And when I see students go through this very kind of dedicated structure, it is hard to see students not achieve when they go through this process, because there's elements that when you do them, each stage that you do is increasing your grades. Every single stage is kind of like a layering of a foundation. So let's just go through them really quickly. So we've got stage 1, which is your assignment brief. Your assignment brief is going to be the most important document, and what often happens, what happened to me, is that I didn't spend or pay enough attention to what the assignment brief was saying. This is a very critical document, and there is certain things that you need to do on this document that will allow you to do and perform really well on it. Stage 2, okay, so stage 2 is your first draft. Okay, so your first draft is it's where you're trying to get to about 50% of the word count, and at that stage you can then touch base with your lecturer or your tutor to see if you're going in the right direction. It shouldn't be finally complete at that stage, it's just an attempt, but it's a very important stage. We'll be going into that. Then the second draft is the completed stage. That's when you should have everything done, and literally you're waiting for stage 4, which is the final edit. Okay, so these are the 4 stages that I would go through on an assignment. And if I missed the stage, like even recently I was doing my masters and I missed the stage of first draft, and it greatly impacted me. I was able to get the second draft and I was able to go see the lecturer, but because I missed that initial first draft and the ability to ask the questions and go in a certain direction, I saw some grades be knocked off, and that's not what I want for you. So I'm going to go through all the stages and what they mean right now. Okay, so firstly, the assignment brief. Your assignment brief, there's 3 main things that you should be doing. The first one is breaking down the time to complete your assignment based on the word count. So if your assignment is 2,000 words, you can complete that in 4 days, doing 500 words a day. If you used to do 500, if you want to do 250 words a day, that can be completed in 8 days. So you need to kind of be mapping out the time that you're going to attribute to that assignment and how you're going to attempt it. I really stress that you shouldn't be doing it the night before. You should aim to have your assignment done at least, I would say, 3 days before the deadline. Max 3 days before the deadline, you should have a decent version that you can submit and hand in. Number 2, the marking criteria. See, the marking criteria is like one of the, that is it. Forget about if you forget about everything else I say, the marking criteria, that document, literally tells you where you're going to be awarded marks, and the grade weighting. So many of you have heard me talk about there's only 4 things that they're going to mark you on. That is either knowledge, understanding, analysis, or evaluation. And the marking criteria will tell you where they're going to award you marks. So if you're in your first year, second year, you probably get more marks from knowledge and understanding. Final year, way more marks are given to you for your analysis and evaluation, because in your final year, they're expecting that you've already mastered the knowledge and understanding aspects of it. So that's really important. Look at your marking criteria, see where majority of the marks are, and take it from there. In the newsletter, there should be a download link, hopefully. I'll put a download link in there for you to look at what a marking criteria looks like for a report and for an essay. That's quite important. And I'll probably, let's say maybe next week, depending on what you guys tell me, I can go through the marking criteria in depth and say like how to analyze it and deliver the right content based on the marking criteria. Next is a rewrite of what you think is being asked of you. And the reason why I get students to do this, and I do this myself, is because what the biggest problem is lecturers say is students don't answer the question. And it's in the process of you writing out the question that you can start to say, actually, am I on track? Is this the actual question that I'm answering? And you're going to find as you're going through your coursework assignment, the question's going to change. The way that you answer it is going to change. And you need something that you can anchor and go back to. So by rewriting the question, rephrasing the question, and going back to your lecturer and saying, is this the question that you want me to ask? You will know that you're 100% on track to deliver what they want. Now it's just a case of doing it in an effective way, like communicating effectively what they want to see. So those are the three most important things on your assignment brief. Okay, next one, your first draft. So when like a lot of students come to me and say, I just don't know where to start, I've got all this knowledge in my head and I don't really know where to start, but I'm going to start with the reading. The problem with the reading is that you end up reading and find yourself reading like sentences, tons of sentences, but nothing's going in. And the reason that is happening, it's actually called something called regression. Regression is where you're kind of taking in information, but you're not actually comprehending what it's saying. The reason that happens is because you're reading without intent. You're reading without a purpose. And in the time that I've spent working with students, I found that actually there's only 3 types of reading that needs to be accomplished before you hand in your assignment. So the first one is read to understand. This is just reading just to understand the concepts, to understand the theories, to understand what's actually being said. And actually, you don't need to do that much of this type of reading. Really, you could jump on YouTube, watch some YouTube videos to get a better understanding, go onto Wikipedia. That stuff is very, if you're trying to understand a concept, I would really suggest you jumping on and watching a video or reading Wikipedia just to get to understand the bare bones of it, going over your lecture again. That shouldn't take that much time. Second, you should read to find points for or against. So later on in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to structure your point precisely. But when you're reading, you shouldn't be reading at this stage just to get points for and just to understand. This is now looking at the question. What's the point for or what's the point against? This, depending on the question, it could be what's the advantages, what's the disadvantages, what's the comparisons, what's the contrast. Very specific reading to look for points for or against as if it was a discussion or an argument is the second type of reading you need to do. And when you're doing that type of reading, you should be writing down the points to say this is the point for, this is a point against, and even put the little reference in there so you can go back to it later. And then the last type of reading is reading to critique your points for and against. So like at this level of education, you can't just say the book said this or the book said that. You need to be able to say, well, actually, is this right what the book is saying? Like I've said this theory and this theory said this is how the world works, but is that right? Because a theory is not fact. And so what you need to be doing is demonstrating in your assignment that you have critiqued your own points. Are your points valid? Okay. And I'll be going over this, don't worry, I'm going to be going over this more in depth as the weeks progress and as time goes forward. But I need you to start reading with objectives of purpose and intent in mind. You're not just reading paragraphs of text for the sake of it. So once you've done that and you've done your reading, you should at the end of it know your points for and against. You should know like how you're going to critique those points for and against as well. Next, it's about getting to 50% of the word count completed. 50%. And the reason why we do 50% is because one time I went to a lecture. I remember I spent so much time and I got it all completed, and the lecturer said to me, "You're not answering the question," and it crushed me because I spent so long on it. So after that, I decided that always thereafter, I wasn't going to complete it. I was going to do half of it and be able to see if I'm going into the right direction or not. Okay. So what I would say is that like a lot of students say to me, actually, I go to my lecturer, I bring my work, and they say, no, I'm not looking at it. That's because you're just giving them your work. But you should know the content, the information. You've already done your reading, so you should know the points for and against in your head. So what you do is you take 50% of your completed work that is in your head, in your mind, in your memory, and you discuss it with them. So you say to them, right, I've done my introduction, okay? My introduction is X, Y, Z, and I talk about that. And then I go into the points for, and one of the points for is X, Y, Z, and one of the points against is A, B, C. What do you think? And with that, a lecturer can't turn you down because you know the stuff. And it's amazing to me still to this day when students come to me to talk to me about their work and they don't even know what they've written. They have to look back and read it. That is not, I'm not here to read your work or read what you've written or typed or copied from a textbook. If you know the information, then we can have a discussion about it. And that's what your first draft's about. So after that, it's about meeting with your lecturer. And there's 3 real main questions that I would really encourage you to ask your lecturer that I think would unlock a lot of information that can help you develop the right piece of work at the end of it. The first one is, should I be looking at this topic in more width or in more depth? Okay, so width is, should I be looking at it wider, looking at lots of different sources, or should I look at it deeper, just focusing on one topic and going deep down into that topic? Okay. Also, the second question is, which lectures should I be looking at the most? So remembering that they're never going to ask you anything that they haven't taught you. And sometimes courseworks are based on multiple different lectures, not just one. So it's about asking what lectures you should be looking at and basing it off there. And then lastly, are there any other books or documentaries that can help you understand the topic better? So in the marking criteria, to get a first, you have to show wider reading and wider understanding. That means you will show something that's not in the recommended reading list. And the best person to ask what other content is out there is the lecturer themselves. They're normally the expert in that field. And so it's great just to say to them, look, is there any other books, documentaries, anything else that can help me understand this topic better? And they love this question. This is the question that they want to see. And when they see that reference in your work, when they see you include other stuff outside of the recommended reading in your work, that increases the value of your work overall. Okay. Second draft, that's when you've got it 100% completed. You will send, I would say, to your mentor. I tell it to my students that they can send it to me, every 2 weeks, or at least before the deadline. So they have to send their work to me 2 weeks before the deadline. I would suggest that for your case, it will be your tutor or your lecturer that you say, look, can I finished the work, I'd like to come and go over it with you and have questions in there. But make sure that if you're going to do that, it's got to be 2 weeks before the deadline. Lecturers hate seeing students a week before the deadline and they haven't even started. So that's just there. And try and have it as near as complete as possible. Final edit. So your final edit should have references and citations in the right place. Again, a great tool to use is Neil's Toolbox. Grammar and spelling needs to be on point. Remember, there's about 5% in your mark that can be deducted just for your grammar and spelling. And look back. At this stage, you want to look back at the marking criteria and literally mark yourself. Because the marking criteria is a document, and this is what so many students don't know. The marking criteria is the document that lecturers have to use to mark your work. So if it's not on the marking criteria, they can't give you any more marks for it. If it's on the marking criteria, if they're given marks for analysis and you've demonstrated analysis, they have to give you those marks. And so it's really beneficial for you to go over the marking criteria yourself and give yourself marks to see, if you've missed anything along the way. So these are the 4 main stages that I would go through in order to kind of produce first-class quality work. Right, in the next video, I'm going to be talking about how to structure your points in the actual essay. So much information. I'm really excited now. This newsletter, I'll say, please can you share, get it out to as many other students as possible. I'm making all this content available free just because we're at the last hurdle, and I just think there's no time to waste. So send it out to friends that you think might need it, or you can email me their email addresses and I'll put them onto the list. But we are a community. We're all trying to help each other, and I wish you all the best in your degree. Thanks.